información. Entonces, en todo caso, viene a ser un estudio de muestra, un muestreo de las comunidades. No estarán todas, pero unas cuantas sí, y de todas maneras no podrá evitarse hacer un promedio de los resultados que se obtenga de ese mapeo. Entonces, puede haber problemas de que las instituciones que trabajamos en esto podríamos preferir las zonas que conocemos, donde estamos elaborando proyectos, y eso sesgaría, digamos, la información. Habría que ser un poco, digamos, mucho más amplios. También tendrá que ver el tema de accesibilidad hacia los territorios en los cuales están las comunidades que se pretende encuestar. Gracias.
Thank you. Yeah, a really good suggestion there around the consideration of the types of communities that we do this work in. I completely agree. And the other thing to point out is that there's also a lot of existing really good data in terms of risk mapping of the communities in a lot of our countries. And one of the first steps in terms of identifying which communities to work in is to collect that secondary data and to analyse that and realise where the gaps are, and help use it to point towards which areas are experiencing a multitude of sort of complex risks. So thank you very much. That's a really helpful comment. Okay, final one.
Thanks. This is a very interesting discussion, and the points which are being raised here are also very relevant for the work we are doing, in particular for the Sendai monitoring. I think this survey, which will be very complementary to the work which the governments and the UN are doing, and I think that's the purpose. Just like the governments or the UN can't work in isolation, the civil society cannot work also in isolation. So we need to complement and join efforts. So just to take a few examples, if this survey is also going to result in community-based loss and damage data, we have also generated such databases for 100 countries in the world and plan to cover another 90 countries in the coming 2 years. This database will be very useful to validate the kind of work we are doing in collection of the same community-based data. So if a country which is not listed among those 48 countries also has some form of information which is also coming from the communities and then validated by the government, which can also be used. So it's not like either or, we are all working together. Secondly, in terms of the Sendai monitoring itself, we would definitely like to validate the kind of results we are receiving from the government through this survey. So it will be very important to see if this survey, how far is aligned with the Sendai monitoring indicators and how far does it complement them. It will be very important. So at a certain point when the survey questionnaires are finalized, it will be good if we can also have a look to see, to develop the complementarities. And you raised the global platform, just to also inform everyone, in particular GNDR, that the call for organizing teams for GP 2019 will be released very, very soon, perhaps in the coming couple of weeks. I strongly encourage all of you, in particular GNDR, to join these organizing teams to influence the agenda of the next global platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anish. It's really encouraging to hear that both you and ISDR sees that this is a useful tool and a useful program to complement other work. But also that it can be something complementary to the Sendai Monitor, and it would be fantastic to do that comparison of what's coming out at the national level and what's coming out at the local level. And in the past, that's what VFL has been, and it's been presented in the global assessment reports each year as the Hyogo Monitor is showing that this is happening, but at the local level, Views on the Frontline is showing something different. And so I think it's a huge opportunity for us to feed in the local voices at this global monitoring level. So thank you, that's really encouraging to hear. Thank you. Lorna?
Okay, so many thanks, Lucy. We still continue the conversations. The implementation handbook of the Views from the Frontline pilot is already on the website of GNDR. So you can have comments also on that implementation handbook. Also, we will be putting the revised questionnaires. So the revised questionnaires covers, as Lucy was saying, random surveys for households. It covers community consultations, focus group discussions with vulnerable groups, an instrument for CSOs, a questionnaire for CSOs, and a questionnaire for local government units. So we will have that shortly also on the website, most probably after our global summit. So the questions can be open also for some comments, but we will also, in the budgets proposed for the VFL, translation also of the questionnaires is part of the budget that has been allocated for. So, but the first thing that should be noted is the process, no? Selection of the risk zones. So in the Philippines and in Tonga, we selected 5 diverse risk areas. In the Philippines, it was all over the Philippines, from north to south. But in Tonga, because of Typhoon Gita, they concentrated in Tonga Tapu, they had 10 communities with diverse risks in Tonga Tapu, in consideration also that it was hit by Typhoon Gita. So the data is also important for them for now recovery and mitigation. So we open now, so we have 2 parts already finished, an actual run of the surveys with you, and then we had Lucy now updating us on the status of the VFL 2019. So be assured that your countries, if they are not on that list, which is still maybe still for approval when the funding comes through, GNDR is still seeking for funding for various countries, but also we enjoin you also if you have contacts to fundraise also for countries not covered there. So we have a session later on proposal writing as part of that resource mobilization. And then I turn you over now to a panel who will discuss the impacts of the views from the Frontline and the VFL and the Frontline that we had done in the past, where we build on. So we are not starting from anew. So we want all these impacts as well to continue on, and that we even have greater impact with the views from the Frontline that we are doing in 2019, and hopefully successive years thereafter, so 2 to 3 years thereafter. So we are not just focused on 2019, we want to do this again on a regular successive basis. So I turn you over to a panel now facilitated by Sen Delica. May I invite the panelists who we call champions in VFL and Frontline. So come up now, Catherine, Pedro over there, Happy, Miss Papiloa, can somebody assist Miss Papiloa go up the stage? Miss Papiloa, your table mates, can they assist you? Come up quickly here. Can somebody assist Miss Papiloa? Come, Papiloa, come. So take your seats up here if you are panelists. Shalini, Mohammed, quick. So we're starting now with a panel. They will discuss various impacts of the VFL and Frontline. So you saw the Frontline, it had a display. As it ended the project, there was an exit evaluation of VFL, and that was featured now in the Local Voices for Resilience, and we had a table over there. So you now see live people, and after that we will have a video to show more people on the ground.
Well, a very pleasant good morning to everyone. Just a while ago, I was a facilitator in one table. Now I'm facilitator. We have several people here to discuss the impacts of VFL in their countries. So, okay, are we arranged? Okay. Remember in 2006, when we started this global network of NGOs for disaster reduction, we were saying that, you know, in the global platform, in the UN global platform, the government's representative were presenting their DRR initiatives in their countries, and they were saying, this is what we have done, this is great, etc., etc. And we thought that, hey, there should be a voice from the civil society and from the NGOs saying, yes, you have done a lot, but there's really something in the ground that we need to know. And so that was the start of the Views from the Frontline, short of saying, yes, there is cloud, but there's no rain. So now we have here representatives from different countries. So we will now hear from the impact on community resilience from Pedro, from the action, well, I will make it in English, practical action from UK, and he will discuss the impact on community resilience in their country, in his country. And then the next will be from Ruiz, from the Foundation for the People of South Pacific in Kiribati. So let's listen to the first two of our panels.
Bien. Sí, quisiera señalar 5 resultados que consideramos claves. El primero tiene que ver con el conocimiento sobre los riesgos y las medidas para reducirlos, así como las políticas de gestión de riesgo. El acceso a este conocimiento no solamente se da de manera externa por la encuesta BPL, sino por los mecanismos en los cuales se construye con la gente. Un segundo resultado, impacto que consideramos, tiene que ver con las voces de las comunidades, ¿no? Que son escuchadas, no solamente por el informe del BPL, sino por el uso de ese informe en el diálogo con las autoridades locales y nacionales, ¿no? Un tercer aspecto que nos parece central tiene que ver con la construcción de la ciudadanía, los derechos y deberes en relación al desarrollo y a la reducción de riesgos, ¿no? No solamente se tratan de derechos y deberes en relación con los riesgos de desastres, sino, como hemos visto, tiene que ver con los riesgos cotidianos, tiene que ver con la sostenibilidad. Estos son 3 impactos, digamos, de corto plazo, pero existen 2 otros impactos que nos parecen centrales en relación con BPL y que van más al mediano plazo y cuyo desarrollo tiene que ver también con un conjunto de factores de entorno, etc. Y estos son 2. Uno es la medida en la cual los riesgos son reducidos objetivamente, ¿no? Entonces ahí tenemos por un lado los planes de acción comunitaria que han sido desarrollados a partir de los BPL y el fortalecimiento de la resiliencia en general en base a estos procesos de empoderamiento de la población, las comunidades, ¿no? Que incluyen también liderazgos e iniciativas comunitarias. Y finalmente, algo no suficientemente visibilizado tiene que ver con el rol que empiezan a asumir las comunidades para fortalecer a las redes de sociedad civil. En varios países de América Latina lo que encontramos es cada vez más fuerte la presencia de redes comunitarias de reducción de riesgo que se van articulando con las redes en general de las instituciones. Ese es el quinto punto que quería destacar. En síntesis, podríamos decir, relacionado con el punto 2, que la BPL contribuye al desarrollo sostenible y a la construcción de ciudadanía en nuestro país. Gracias.
Thank you. Please.
Okay, the impact of the BFL or the frontline in Kiribati, we have a great impact, especially when we started off with the survey. The results of the survey have informed our communities on what kind of issues they've been faced in their everyday lives, and that they just realized that it relates to the disaster and climate change issues. So from that, after the community consultation on the reports or the results, the communities are able to do community development plans that they weren't there in the first place. So in those community development plans, they have to prioritize their issues according to their needs and the impacts they've been affected. Also, in that way, the implementation of the activities on climate change and disaster risk adaptation activities were initiated also on those communities after the implementation of the community development plans, and in that place, the communities also were able to seek or to work together with the local governments in helping them by, like with the Frontline program, we engage the department ministries in helping them, especially on the issues of water, the limitation of fresh water in some areas, because in Kiribati we depend on underground well water, so we have to engage the Kiribati, the water technician people within the department of the ministries to help the communities out. Also, we are helping them to, like they initiate where we don't have funds, they have to use their own traditional knowledge using like local seawall construction where we have affected with the coastal erosion. So that's where we use their traditional knowledge on how to build seawalls. Also, we also help them with the impact of the Frontline. They are able to approach like donor agencies or other local government bodies to help them out with the issues they being faced. Also, with the Frontline, we also developed like the community, what do you call it, like the Kiribati Climate Change or Disaster Network. So the partners that we work with, we are able to meet together and share what we have or the views we have on the activities we've been implementing with the communities. I think the Frontline has brought into the communities more aspects of how to see what kind of assistance they will get and how they can use their own traditional way of helping each other or using their own resources to combat the disasters or the issues they've been affected. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The two presenters discussed the impact on resilience. So please hang on your, hold on to your question. Later on, we'll have a little time for question and answer. Now we will go to look at the impact on policies from two people. One from Catherine Cabanita from the Development Network of Indigenous Voluntary Association, or DENIVA, and Happy from Yakum Emergency Unit in Indonesia. So can we start with Catherine, please?
I come from Uganda, and we've been one of those implementing the project on Voices from the Frontline. For Uganda, looking at the aspect of policy, influencing the policies, I'd like to discuss the lower levels, the local level, and also the sectorial level, and also the national level. How are we influencing the policies? So the communities that we've been working with have been actively involved in what we call neighborhood assemblies. And these are more like people's parliaments where they meet on a regular basis, like on a monthly basis, and people identify disaster risk reduction, issues that are affecting their communities and come up with solutions on how to address them. And so in terms of policy, they've engaged with the local governments to form ordinances and bylaws and to ensure that mainly three areas are addressed. One is the aspect of conservation. How do they conserve the environment? How do they have better farming practices? how do they ensure that the schools in those communities, that students are being taught on issues of disaster risk reduction and climate change, and how do they mobilize the communities to ensure that these policies and ordinances that are passed by the local governments are implemented and everybody becomes each other's keeper. So the neighborhood assemblies have been a very important platform that we've used to raise issues and hold the members accountable and ensure ownership of activities. Secondly, we have also engaged the communities to interface with the local governments, where we have identified the issues in our neighborhood assemblies. They've taken them further and said they must be seen in the local government policies and plans and budgets and monitoring and evaluation frameworks. So at the local levels, that kind of engagement has been very intensive and has led to major changes where the local governments are involved in ensuring that their plans and their budgets and the MIE frameworks are DRR responsive. And then at the national level, we have managed to mobilize these communities to interface with members of parliament and also the ministries involved, and worked with other key civil society organizations like Oxfam and members of parliament to come up with a DRR bill. This has been enriched by the voices from the local people. When you read it, it's very representative of the people's voices and their concerns. And we pray that when this act is the bill is finally passed into an act, this will be one of the best that you can be proud of to address the concerns at the local levels. So policy influencing is very, very important for us, and what we look for is how to measure success. What kind of impact are we having, and how will it be sustained even beyond the project and make a difference in people's lives? So we've ensured there's gender responsive, because we know when disasters hit, the inequalities, gender inequalities depend. We ensure that youth, who are the majority in the communities, are involved, and we ensure that the key primary duty bearers, and that is the government to whom we pay taxes, take leadership and are held accountable by the people that we mobilize. Thank you.
Thank you. In Indonesia, at the local level, after we share our survey findings, the local planning agency invited the DRR platform to facilitate the local governments to develop to mainstream DRR into development by facilitating series of discussions with multi-stakeholder, including the local government sectoral units, and also develop a guideline for the local government unit on how to mainstream DRR in their planning and budgeting. And at the national level, the survey findings also raise the awareness in the country that social conflict should also be addressed as a disaster, and also that it gives affirmations to the governments that there is a strong need to have a regulations on the level and the status of disaster, whether it is the disaster is a local level or national level disaster. This is very important so that there is a legal certainty on which government level that is responsible to respond first when there is a disaster, and what resources are available during the emergency. And so these two regarding the social conflict and also the level and status of disaster has been accommodated during the public consultations because in the reviewing of the disaster management law, and sensitifications of this the result of this disaster management law revisions has been shared with the House member as well, so that they could have the awareness that there is a strong need to revise the disaster management law. And the second one, at the national level, we also give input from the survey findings to the draft of the national regulations on accessible housing, public services, and also protection for people with disabilities during disaster. Unfortunately, on May, there is a president decree that amongst the 6 national regulations that should be prioritized to be legalized, it's only 4 national regulations that will be prioritized, and for this draft of the national regulations on accessible housing, public services, and protections of protection of people with disability during disaster has not been a priority. So so after this happening, we have discussions with the National Agency for Disaster Management why this regulation is not being a priority, and one of the short action taken is that the deputy of the National Agency for Disaster Management make a decision that there should be a sensitification about disability inclusive disaster risk management DRR for all the staff in the disaster management agency. So it's very it's an early stage, but it's also it's a progress anyway. And the last one is that we also use the survey findings to give inputs to the national strategies and national targets on the implementations of SDGs in Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abby. Now we will proceed to the impact of VFL to partnership and creating partnership. And we will hear from Mohammed Sheikh, Action for Sustainable Change from Kenya.
Good morning once again.
Good morning.
Why you are very quiet? Once again, okay, thank you. I am Mohammed Sheikh from Kenya. The panelists looks a bit not gender balanced, all the same, no problem. Go ahead. Mine is about partnership, how Frontline has enhanced partnership in Kenya. As a result of Frontline Kenya, we are able to partner with a number of partners in the country. For example, GNDR actually was our key partner, which has able to us to link us with other actors in the country, within the country, in terms of planning meeting for the DRR in the country, design of the action plan for the country. We have been able to be linked with by GNDR country office. I am sure Anish can attest to that. And then we are able, as a result of also Frontline, we were able to link up with ECHO Kenya office. We do appreciate so much because of the Frontline initiative. We were able to provide us humanitarian air transport, where we have been given at least an aircraft free wherever we go to our field offices to do the Frontline at the village level. Of course, it's not only for us, but for all humanitarian partners. But as a result of the Frontline, we have been recognized by the ECHO. The ECHO is actually European Commission, which is in Kenya. We have been recognized by the European Commission to provide us humanitarian air transport to far end, where usually ECHO travels twice in a week. Those are all which has been enhanced, partnership has been enhanced as a result of the Frontline initiative at the country level. The other actually partnership is also CSOs, local CSOs at the country level were able also to link us with us. When we organize the advocacy workshop, we invited them to our advocacy workshop at the country level. After the country workshop, all of us now, we developed our WhatsApp group. Based on that, all of them at where they are able to do the activity at where the village level where they are operating. They were helping us, in fact, to disseminate the frontline findings at their locality, integrated into their project, which is ongoing at their own level. The other partnership, which has been also enhanced, linked by the frontline, is that we were also able to work with the National Disaster Operations Center. That's the government arm which is in charge of coordination of disaster at the country level, organizing and planning for International GNDR Day. As a result of the partnership of the Frontline, the National Disaster Operations Center, they were able to incorporate us in the planning committee in International GNDR Day planning, organizing for a disaster operation. We always been at the community level. We are included in the planning committee for that particular initiative. The other initiative, partnership also with Parliamentary Committee of Foreign Defense and Foreign Affairs, on which are developing the bills on disaster risk management, which we have been also invited as a result of the Frontline initiatives. We were part of the stakeholders who should organize and invite CSOs for the public hearing at Parliament building to give impulse to the bill of the disaster operation management unit. Therefore, I think the story is long anyway. You can able to meet me after this, after tea, because I have a lot of insight of frontline learning from Kenya. I have only 3 minutes actually, because the time is limited for me. You can visit me at the Frontline desk, where I'm going to give you an insight of the Frontline, because it's a 3-year program. I can't give you in 3 minutes. So I hope meet me after this, and let us discuss more on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. Now we will move on to the impact on organizational capacity and work, to be given by Shahani of SEEDS India.
My name is Shalini. I represent SEEDS, and SEEDS was privileged to be part of BFL in 2009, 2011 and 2013. We are also part of the Frontlines. So BFL offered some very valuable insights to us. The first one being there's a wide gap between the policies and the implementation at the local level. Secondly, we understood the perception of community as for risk. They perceive daily stresses like waterlogging, building collapse, traffic jams, accidents as risk. That is risk for them. Thirdly, we figure out that there was a lot of infrastructure and there was availability for doing DRR at the institutional level, but it was missing at the implementation level. And also the examples of stakeholder collaborations were missing in this regard, and the focal points and accountability was missing. We also realized that development also is increasing the risk day by day. So as an organization, we realized that we need to focus and address the everyday risks, and we had to re-strategize our strategy for DRR approach in the urban sector. So in the East District of Delhi, we basically emphasized a small multi-stakeholder group, which comprised of various multi-stakeholders coming from all walks of life. They were retired government officials, they were students, they were academicians, they were women. So they all met and they planned to move ahead and liaison with the government officials for generating awareness for the underlying causes that created risk and pushing the